Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. So do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, upvote, comment, all of that. We'll be very proud of that. It's just a special guest today. We've got the Portal Queen joining us today. Coach Yo is in the house. How are you doing, Coach Yo?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Ole Miss women's basketball, way back whenever I was a young kid, back when the Gillum sisters were running around and Van Chancellor had built up a machine over the years that the NCAA tournament appearance after another. And Carol Ross took over and she had a run to the Elite Eight. But after that, Ole Miss women's basketball fell on hard times. And I don't know exactly what happened, but I think the NCAA came around and Matt Insel tried to turn it around and they just couldn't. But Coach, you actually emailed out to whoever, I think it was Ross Bjork at that time, saying that you were the right person for this job. And I'm curious, what made you think that you were the right person for this job? Because Ole Miss basketball was not in a good place at that time.
Well, and actually, I called a search firm. So the reason why I thought I was good for the job is because I had just done the job with a smaller budget at JU. So when I showed up at Jacksonville University in Florida, the program was in a disarray. Had never been to the NCAA tournament. Was down out of luck on some years, and I was able to go there and turn it around. And if you look at my 5 years at JU and my 5 years at Ole Miss, it's almost identical as far as postseason play, the number of wins, and the only difference is at Ole Miss, obviously, I have a bigger platform. I'm able to get more talented players. We were able to go to Sweet 16, but this is not like my first rodeo. So after I realized that everyone was turning the job down, I didn't understand why I wasn't considered.
Yeah, and it's been truly remarkable because I remember a few years ago, I think you had a game against South Carolina and you were like playing a manager and it was like 50 to 8
Yeah,
at halftime. And I was like, oh,
that is bad.
but the patience and the perseverance to stick to it. And then an NIT finals run and then an NCAA tournament. It's been a slow build all the way up. And it culminated kind of with that upset in Stanford. And
Yeah.
tell me what that night felt like. Tell me what that was like.
Well, first of all, I told people when I got interviewed my first 2 years here, I said, y'all, this is going to be a crock pot, and I know we live in a microwave society, but this is complete crock pot cooking over here. And so I've always felt like our program can be where it is now. And then I think us going to Palo Alto and beating Stanford arguably, other than the Final Four runs that everybody had this year, is one of the most significant and biggest wins. Not only because it's Stanford, but because it's Stanford. You have a Hall of Fame coach in Tara Vanderveer. I think it's been 11 seasons or maybe more in a row they have been in the Sweet 16. They had only lost a total of 5 games in the past 5 years at Stanford and two this past year, and one of them came to us. So if you were a betting person, you probably would think you wouldn't bet for Ole Miss. uh, and so it was really a cool night, and I felt as far as matchups were concerned, we were in a good space to shock the world, which we had an opportunity to do.
Yeah, and it was really awesome, and you became a star for a couple of weeks, and it was really cool to see. I followed along. I'm not the biggest women's basketball fan, but that just completely grabbed me, and I
Yeah.
started paying attention a lot at that point. We have a guy on our show that comes on, Brantley Sanderson, who comes on,
Uh,
and he's the biggest Ole Miss women's basketball fan I could find. He
yes,
comes
he
he
is.
yeah he comes on to tell me exactly what I should be knowing. So whenever you had that week of going down to LSU and then the South Carolina overtime game, whenever that happened, Brantley was like, "Hey, Steve, you need to pay attention to this because I think Ole Miss is closer than everybody is thinking." And I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah.
we'll see what goes on." And then that week is like,
Yeah.
"Okay, Coach O's got
Yeah.
it going on."
Yeah, I mean it was wild. Yeah, shout out to Brantley for real. I tune in when I can. And he always he would always bring us up and talk about us, and it was phenomenal, and from that, yeah, Ole Miss women's basketball have been featured in USA Today, the Wall Street Journal, New York Times. I just did something with CBS Sports. I was a speaker at the Wall Street Journal Festival in New York. I mean, it's been incredible to be able to promote Ole Miss women's basketball in the University of Mississippi, on a national stage in a positive light.
And let's change gears a little bit and look towards next season. And whenever the
Mm.
transfer portal, you made the comment that you were going to do damage in the transfer portal. What was your strategy and needs before any of these girls signed? What did you think you needed to find? And then how did they address this need, the girls that you got?
Well, I think a lot of people forget that last year we were in the portal and we signed 9 new players last year. And so you don't want to have to sign that many with a roster of 15. So this year, what we wanted to do to balance out our classes was get freshmen, which we did. We signed 5, and then see what we needed to fill in the blanks with on our roster. And so once we realized who was graduating, um, we started to target positions that we needed. And we were playing and we were looking at the portal to see who was in there and coming up with dates while we were playing. I mean, it got to a point where we were like, okay, if we're in the final four, we'll be in Oxford for this amount of time. And we need to bring recruits in on this weekend, these couple days. So you kind of have to be like a general manager and a master planner so that you could put yourself in a situation um, to be prepared to attack the portal once kids go in there, because it's really, I think, the ones that can captivate that portal kid right away most times will get the kid.
Yeah, and the name that everybody got really excited about when it hit was Kennedy Todd Williams. Talk
Yeah.
about her a
Mm.
little bit as a player. What are we looking at?
Kennedy Todd is a 6 foot guard in women's basketball. That's pretty tall. She can play the 2, 3, and 4. She can score. I think everyone was away because she transferred out of North Carolina, and she had Louisville and LSU, teams that were in the Elite Eight and Final Four this year, and was the second leading scorer on North Carolina's team. Just a hustle player, a complete athlete, and we're excited because we get 2 years with her. And so it was a big get for us because of where she came from, the way she played there, the notoriety. I think she made second team All ACC. I mean, for us, for Ole Miss, a program that 3 years ago was 0-16, to be able to land a kid like her was a pretty big deal. I mean, we got Shakira Austin, and I thought that was a big deal because she was the number one player in the transfer portal. But to go ahead 2 years later and get a young lady like this, it was another pretty big splash.
You also had two players that went SEC to SEC with
Yeah.
Carissa Richardson and KK Deans. Obviously,
Hmm.
height wise, two completely different players, but what can you
Yep.
expect from them?
Well, Carissa is man, her upside is tremendous. I think she got a freshman of the week this season. She's a 4 player that is gonna completely um, help us from an offensive standpoint, and then from a rebounding and toughness standpoint. I mean, she just has it, and I'm excited about her because we have 3 years with her, and we really need size That's going to be something that we focus on even in the 2024 class, replacing some of the people that we will lose and making sure that we have size so that Madison Scott can start to play that 3-4 instead of that 4-5 level. Even though sometimes when we play small ball, that is our best lineup. So Carissa brings that. KK shoots a better 3-point percentage than anyone in our team. She was top five in tons of scoring offensive categories in the SEC. She is a scoring point guard. She has swagger, demeanor. Her demeanor is just full of like toughness and leadership. And after losing Maya Taylor, who was tough and a defensive dog, KK brings that toughness and that dog mentality, but also that offensive prowess that we really, really need if we want to ultimately get to a Final Four.
One thing that I find is interesting, whenever you look at the high school recruiting that you did, there's a player from Serbia. Obviously, there's a
Yep.
Bahamas player. I can't imagine who the
Yep.
N was there. Um, but yeah, so it's kind of a global. You're casting a wide net.
Yeah, well, when I hired Coach Boyan Yankovic, that is one of the things that I hired him for. I wanted to start getting into our international recruiting. I just think in the Southeastern Conference, our skill level could be better on the women's side. Like we had four teams in the Sweet 16. Last 2 years we've had the national championship. Our conference for women's basketball is the best in the country, but we have to figure out Ole Miss our place in this, okay? And so our place is going to be a mixed bag of everything because in our radius, there's not hundreds and hundreds of kids that can play at our level. So we kind of got to spread it out and diversify our portfolio. And we've really figured out a niche. We got one from Virginia. We love our East Coast ties. We went to Kansas City and got a stud that I think is going to be really good. Like you mentioned, the Bahamas and Serbia, where Coach Boyan is from. And then we went to South Carolina and got a 6'5" post player from there. So we kind of go wherever the talent is. I've been coaching for a long time, and so has my staff. And we've been all over the country, so we have connections there. And so we kind of just go after it.
Okay, before I let you go, in obviously 2023-2024 basketball season is probably going to be one of the most anticipated basketball, both men's and women's basketball season in Ole Miss history.
Yeah.
What can fans look forward to a Coach O team looking like in 2023?
Well, I just think the consistency. I mean, if you've ever come to our games, you have seen an incredible style of play, from athleticism to skill to energy, high level defense. We're top defense in the country. But now a splash of fun basketball on the offensive end. I mean, we averaged 70 points this year, but one of the things that I'm not shy to say is I would like us to score in the 80s. So that's 10 points more that we're going to look for, and it's going to be our style of play. Um, I also think when you come to an Ole Miss women's basketball game, it's just a great experience. I think our marketing crew and our game day crew, they're intentional about making sure it's a family environment. And you feel like you can touch our players. They spend a lot of time with fans after the game. Obviously, I'm on Twitter, and I just for and a good bang for your buck. We have a lot of family deals. We have a lot of game day deals, but season tickets is just $50. And last year we averaged around 4,000 people, and I want to get that up to about 6,000 people this year. So if we can spread the word and come out, I always tell them they can get their money back. Just call you.
Um, so nice. How do they order season tickets? How would be a
Yeah,
good?
you can just go. Yeah, you can just go online to Ole Miss Sports and go to women's basketball. You could order season tickets. I think all of our floor seats are already gone. There is a wait list. for it because, people love to just be up close and personal. And I just believe that the reason why it's good to support us is because we're in the community. This is our third year winning the Community Service Award. We give back, we engage. You can touch us. And that is important for us. And like you said, I think it's going to be an exciting style of basketball, obviously, with Coach Baird and what he does. And then our consistency, why not? I told people 5 years ago, I said, if you're into stocks, you got to invest in women's basketball, or it'll be too late. And so I still believe that we still have room to invite people. And I don't know if you've been to a game yet, but we got to get you to one.
Hey, I'd love to get up to Oxford to see one. I have not been to a basketball game in the Pavilion yet, actually, period.
Okay, well, you have a personal invite for me. If you want to catch a doubleheader, sometimes we play and it's football at the same on the same weekend. Just let me know. I'll hook you up.
Outstanding. Anyway, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Every day or tomorrow on the show, we will continue our off-season ramp up. I don't know how we're going to follow today, but tomorrow we'll absolutely try. Anyway, Coach O, thank you so much for joining the show today,
Thank
and
you.
hopefully we can have you
And
again.
I feel official now that I've been invited on the show. This is my first appearance, so I guess I've truly made it now that I've been invited on the show.
My head, if you don't notice, my head's getting bigger and bigger. Anyway, take care, Coach O.
Thank you.